Man accused of being in contact with the teenage shooter in the Abundant Life Christian School shooting appeared in court today. What charges he faces and when he'll be in court next.
And after a rocky first vote, Representative Mike Johnson has been elected Speaker of the House, where Wisconsin representatives fell in the vote and what this means going forward.
Plus, a new warning from the Surgeon General about cancer risks associated with alcohol. A push for a new warning label that could change the industry forever.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5. Thank you for joining us. A California man apologized for his connection to the 15-year-old girl who fatally shot a teacher and a fellow student and injured several others at the Abundant Life Christian School.
Alexander Penfendorf has been given a restraining order under California's red flag law, barring him from owning guns and ammunition until April 4th. Authorities believe the 15-year-old shooter communicated with Pfaffendorf, a 20-year-old man in Carlsbad, California, who was planning a mass shooting with her. At the end of the hearing today, he took the opportunity to apologize for his involvement, but did not lay out his specific role in the tragedy.
In terms of just the whole thing, I would just like to apologize to the court, and then in terms of the future, in terms of the gun violence protective order, whatever you feel is necessary and the Carlsbad Police Department feels is necessary, I'm willing to accept.
The restraining order doesn't say what government building Pfaffendorf targeted or when he planned to launch his attack. It also doesn't detail his interactions with the student, except to state that he was plotting a mass shooting with her.
Amid the ongoing investigation into the connection between those two and the ALCS shooter's motives, social media accounts believed to belong to her continue to circulate.
Our Maddie Heimsch has more details on online communities and how extreme posts can lead to extreme actions. Maddie?
The Madison Police Department says it cannot yet publicly verify which accounts belong to the suspect, but the investigation has led to online activity glorifying violence, hate, and extremist ideologies. Vice President of the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, Oren Siegel, says online spaces that promote hate and violence are not hard for kids and teens to find.
The sad reality is that extremism, hate, and the glorification of violence more broadly is only a couple of clicks away.
A December study by Pew Research Center found that a third of teens report using social media platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube almost constantly.
I mean, most of us live most of our lives with a significant amount of time spent in online spaces. That's where we're getting our worldview.
But whether it's apps like Instagram or TikTok or lesser known sites like Telegram, Siegel says people are able to reach, recruit, and radicalize youth online with essentially free reign.
They just don't create an environment that creates any friction for the promotion and celebration of violence and hate.
As for the 15-year-old shooter that killed a teacher and student at Abundant Life Christian School in December, the Center for Extremism reported that social media accounts connected to the shooter include posts, quote, expressing admiration for past school shooters and mass attackers, as well as an unusual interest in violence of all kinds.
But what it does is, raise the question, was this an extremist-related killing, or was this just somebody who had other issues that was also motivated by the glorification of violence? I honestly don't think we have that answer yet.
The Madison Police Department tells us it's in the process of legally accessing what they call the suspect's, quote, large presence online through warrants and subpoenas. The department tells News 3 Now there should be more case information available on Monday.
Maddie, thank you. Now let's head outside for a look at your first warn forecast. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington, hopefully not freezing out there on the patio.
I am, and guess what? I cheated. I was inside the garage over there till just a few moments ago, and then I came out here. Give you the illusion. Yeah, it's cold out here. Actually, it's not an illusion. It is cold out here. The gusts are starting to pick up. When you get those wind gusts going and temperatures that are falling, we have wind chills that we're going to contend with. Let's do a little bit of a tour here across southern Wisconsin, show you our temperature right now in Madison. Beautiful image here with our first warn weather cam, but that's deceptive because it's 20 degrees. The wind chill's down at 10 degrees right now in Madison. Look at the sunset here in Platteville with our first warn weather cam. Beautiful out there. No snow. So you'd be thinking this time of year, even in Dodgeville with our first warn weather cam, that we'd have snow on the ground with this kind of cold, but we don't. Our temperatures out there, wind chill wise, in the single digits to right around 10, but they're going to continue to plummet the rest of this evening. We'll see wind chills as cold as the single digits below zero by the time you join me at the 10 o'clock newscast. And that's just a thing to come. How cold will those wind chills get? And the latest on a big winter storm from the Midwest coming up.
Alex, thank you. The first day of the new Congress brought a dramatic start as lawmakers worked to elect a Speaker of the House. Republican Mike Johnson, backed by President-elect Trump, faced an unexpected challenge when he failed to secure enough votes in the initial tally. But after a half-hour break, two holdout representatives flipped their vote, giving Johnson the majority he needed to win. Wisconsin Republican House representatives all voted in favor of Johnson, with Republicans now controlling both chambers. President-elect Trump says he's promising ambitious changes despite a slim House majority.
Also on Capitol Hill, Senator Tammy Baldwin has been sworn in for her third term representing Wisconsin in the U.S. Senate. Baldwin took the oath of office today, administered by Vice President Kamala Harris. In her remarks following, Baldwin outlined her priorities that include lowering health care and child care costs, strengthening Wisconsin's economy, and standing up to special interests like Wall Street and Big Pharma.
You can bet that I will keep working to expand coverage, lower costs, restore reproductive rights, and stand up to any efforts to repeal the Affordable Care Act and take away health care from thousands of Wisconsinites.
In a call this afternoon, Baldwin highlighted accomplishments like capping insulin costs for seniors, saving Wisconsin worker pensions, and investing in dairy farmers, adding the need to continue the fight against the fentanyl epidemic.
The federal government's rule that designated broadband a public utility is no longer in place. A federal appeals court yesterday killing the Federal Communications Commission's rules on net neutrality. Those rules prevented broadband providers from slowing or blocking access to internet content. The policy received support from consumer groups and tech giants like Google, but were condemned by communication giants like AT&T.
It makes uniformity of service and of cost. And what the industry has always been afraid of is that that would lead to some kind of rate regulation where the government says you can only charge so much.
So what does this mean for you? Well, essentially nothing, according to Orton. With Trump taking office in just a couple of weeks, it's all but guaranteed to be reversed again. Madison police are investigating after a man was dropped off at a hospital with a life-threatening stab wound. Officers were called to the hospital around 8 this morning after the man was dropped off. Officers now believe the stabbing happened at an apartment on Huxley Street near the Locker Room Sports Bar and Grill. No suspects have been identified and no arrests have been made at this time. If anyone has any information related to the incident, they are asked to call the Madison area Crime Stoppers.
A Beaver Dam woman is dead after a fire this morning at a mobile home park. The Dodge County Sheriff's Office says the fire was reported around 1:45 this morning at the North Hills Mobile Home Park on Kellum Road, which is just north of the Beaver Dam city limits. When deputies and firefighters arrived on scene, the home was fully engulfed. A 29-year-old man was able to escape. However, a 29-year-old woman could not and did not survive. Pets were also found dead in the home. The Dodge County Sheriff's Office and the state fire marshal are investigating the cause of the fire.
And one person is displaced after a fire in a Reedsburg home this morning. Reedsburg Police Chief Patrick Cummings says the fire was reported just after 9 this morning on East Main Street. One person was able to exit the home safely uninjured with their pet. Crews were on scene for roughly an hour, and the fire is now being investigated, however, is not expected for foul play. The Red Cross is helping the displaced person.
The Department of Health and Human Services announced it will invest more than $300 million to help monitor bird flu and prepare for potential scenarios. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention still considers the risk to the general public to be low, but the Biden administration emphasized the importance of continued collaboration among stakeholders to protect human and animal health and safety. The funding will go toward education and treatment for emerging special pathogens, hospital preparedness, and stocking supplies, increased testing and monitoring of exposure, and research into possible medical countermeasures. 19 good reasons for physical activity and a link between breast cancer and cardiovascular disease.
Michael George has today's top health stories.
A study in JAMA Network Open found patients with more advanced breast cancer at the time of diagnosis were also more likely to have pre-existing cardiovascular disease. Researchers at the University of Texas say cardiovascular disease can suppress the immune system, which may accelerate breast tumor cell growth and spread. Patients with the breast cancer subtype HR positive, HER2 negative were most likely to have pre-existing cardiovascular disease. A new nasal swab test could diagnose a specific asthma subtype in kids. Researchers at the University of Pittsburgh say the non-invasive test could help doctors better prescribe medications. It may also lead to more research for better treatments in lesser studied types of asthma, which is the most common chronic childhood disease and disproportionately affects Black and Hispanic youth. And if you need another reason to get up and get moving, how about 19 of them? A University of Iowa study of more than 7,000 patients found those who exercised moderately to vigorously at least 150 minutes a week were at statistically significant lower risk of having 19 chronic diseases, including cancer and cardiovascular disease. Researchers recommend doctors ask their patients about their level of physical activity. Those are some of the day's top health stories. Michael George, CBS News, New York.
A new warning from the Surgeon General about alcohol. Dr. Vivek Murthy issued a new advisory today warning Americans that alcohol consumption can increase cancer risk. He called for an updated health warning label on alcoholic beverages, a move that would require approval from Congress. Murthy says alcohol is attributed to 20,000 cancer deaths in the United States every year, which is higher than the 13,500 alcohol-associated traffic crash fatalities per year in the U.S. The Surgeon General's new advisory also calls for guideline limits for alcohol consumption to be assessed to account for cancer risk and seeks to raise awareness to the public about the link to cancer risk.
Wisconsin's Youth Tractor and Machinery Safety Certification Program is working to ensure young farm workers are both trained and safe. That's according to organizers who say this program helps people ages 14 to 15 meet federal safety standards for working on farms. The program offers hands-on training to promote farm safety and prevent accidents. Courses will be held at the Lake Mills High School from March 8th to April 26th on Saturdays at Camp Tapawingo for 2 weekend sessions. For details, reach out to the Madison College or Camp Tapawingo.
Residents are taking to the ice today as Madison parks are opening their rinks for the first time this season. Tenney Park and Vilas Park Lagoons, along with many other rinks, are opening today and this weekend for free ice skating. City officials say to bring your own skates or rent them from Elver, Tenney, or Vilas. Today, rinks will be open from 4 to 8, tomorrow from noon to 8, and Sunday from noon to 6. Skate rentals are $6 for the first hour for adults, $3 for youth, and $2 for each hour after. I could not ice skate for the life of me. I have no balance.
You haven't tried?
I've tried many times.
I know what we're doing tomorrow.
Okay.
This weekend, we are dipping below zero. After the break, Alex gives us a full look at the forecast.
And Biden signs legislation blocking the sale of U.S. steel. How Biden addressed the possible sale in what he calls an interest of national security.
And on Wall Street today, after nearly a week of trending down, the markets are back in the green. The Dow finished up 339 points, the Nasdaq gained 340, and the S&P 500 picked up 73 points.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
Today, President Biden blocked a Japanese firm's $14 billion takeover of U.S. Steel. U.S. Steel, a century-old steelmaker, is based in Pennsylvania, and it has struggled in recent years. A federal committee reviewing the transaction did not make a formal recommendation about whether the takeover should be allowed. It left the decision up to the president on whether or not to block the deal on national security grounds. In a statement, Biden called steel production a national security priority. Nippon and U.S. Steel have vowed to take legal action. And for the first time since the deadly terrorist attack on Bourbon Street in New Orleans, the famed tourist attraction is back open to pedestrians, but with heavy barricades in place.
This as more details are emerging about the man behind the terrorist attack. Lee Waldman has the latest from New Orleans.
Video obtained exclusively by CNN shows Shamsuddin Jabbar shortly before the attack, working outside his truck in New Orleans. The FBI also releasing images of Jabbar and a cooler believed to contain an improvised explosive device.
The IED was inside a cooler, and many people stopped and looked at the cooler and then continued on their way.
Authorities are calling the deadly truck ramming attack premeditated, now saying definitively that Jabbar acted alone. They're asking anyone who might have seen him or knew him to come forward with any information.
Whether you know Jabbar personally, worked with him, served in the military, or saw him in New Orleans or Texas, we need to talk to you.
Meanwhile, more images and stories of the attack victims are starting to emerge. Kathy and Lou Tenedorio, whose son Matthew was killed, say he had the biggest heart. They also say they begged him not to go to New Orleans that night.
Please don't go. It's dangerous over there. It's not the way it used to be. There's a lot of crime. Please stay here. And he's like, don't worry about it, Dad. I love you. And we hugged and he left.
Temporary hardened barriers have been put into place to prevent vehicle traffic along Bourbon Street, but some believe this attack could change how all large crowd events will be handled moving forward.
Everything changed after 9/11. I think you're going to see everything change about large-scale events.
In New Orleans, I'm Lee Waldman reporting.
Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry says security improvements are a top priority ahead of the Super Bowl being held in New Orleans next month.
And let's get a look at your first warn forecast. Chief Meteorologist Alex Harrington here without his winter coat this time.
Yeah, but I would prefer to wear the winter coat because it feels much better. But the suit jacket will have to do.
There you go.
Gotta also explain here, Ellie and Armand as well. It's 20 degrees outside. It feels cold, but it could be a lot colder, and there's a reason why it feels so cold as well. Not only because the wind chill's at 10 degrees, but let's go on a little trip. Over the course of the past 2 weeks, look at these dots here. Most of these dots are in the pinks, if not the reds. That means way, way above normal temperatures. Not even just a couple of days ago after Christmas, temperatures were near 50 degrees. I'm not acclimated to that, and that's why it feels so cold when you're outside, when you have actual air temperatures at 20, when it felt 30 degrees warmer just a couple of days ago. That's not even accounting for the wind chill. So upper teens to right around 20, that's the actual air temperature. You get the wind gusts going between 20, 25, 30 miles per hour, and then this is what you get. You get wind chills feeling more like 4 in Camp Douglas, 10 in Madison. You can do the math there between 10 and 50. That means it feels 40 degrees colder, relatively speaking, than just what we experienced right after Christmas. And it's going to get even colder across southern Wisconsin. Planning our night tonight. By the time you join us at 6, we'll be seeing those wind chills probably dipping in to the single digits in Madison and then single digits below 0 by the time you join us at 10 o'clock. And I might decide to stay inside for first weather by the time we get to 10 o'clock. Although it could be colder. We've had colder temperatures for sure in Wisconsin, and I've grown up in it myself. Temperature Saturday morning as cold as -10 to -15 degrees. So if you have any outdoor activities, you're really going to need to bundle up. And this cold is not going anywhere over the next 10 days. Normal between 27 to 28 degrees. Look at all these highs, struggling often to get to 20, a few mid-20s, that 31. one out ahead of a cold front. That following Sunday is going to feel pretty temperate out there if things don't change before then. Then also that weather system looks like it's going to stay to the south still of Wisconsin. It's really going to cause some impacts. I'm going to show those in just a moment in case you have any travel to our south. Basically cloudy and breezy conditions, though, across southern Wisconsin. If you have any travel plans, Kansas City to St. Louis, I'll get behind me here and look it over towards Cincinnati, over towards the mid-Atlantic region. Major travel impacts are expected from a widespread swath of heavy snow, maybe upwards of a foot, and the potential for ice accumulations heavy, approaching an inch to the south down over the lower portions of the mid-Mississippi River Valley and the Ohio River Valley. So major travel concerns to the south here in southern Wisconsin. Not a whole lot unless you're over towards Milwaukee, where a little lake effect snow could develop if you have any travel off towards the east as we head Sunday night going on into Monday. And that's it here, folks, in terms of snowfall. If you really want the snow, unfortunately, I don't have it in the forecast. Just cold temperatures, dry conditions, breezy at times, and unfortunately with drought conditions across much of the upper Midwest, this isn't the forecast you want to see. We really could use some snow to get a little moisture in the ground.
Yeah, Ellie, you're not going to catch me ice skating tomorrow in this weather. I'm sorry, it's too cold.
You know what? I can't blame you there. I can't blame you there.
All right, Alex, thank you. Well, the ice castles may have left the Wisconsin Dells, but the group is still making freezing art around the country.
What processes are required to make it a winter wonderland every year?
You're watching News 3 Now at 5.
With a string of colder days, ice sculptures around Minnesota are finally catching a break.
Sounds cool. Get it? It's ice.
That was really good.
Good,
That was
thank
good.
I tried. Jason Rondilla shows us how they're making the most of it.
It's finally starting to look a little like winter here in Delano. That's thanks, in part, not only to these snow machines, but also our dramatic drop in temperatures.
We're just trying to fix the ice palace and get everything recovered.
Dylan Hinson with the Ice Palace says temperatures of 40 and above, combined with rain, made for a devastating ice-killing combination.
We had a couple walls collapse.
The warm weather comes after last year's frustrating season, when the palace was open for a grand total of 4 days. Ice makers say 25 degrees and below is good for making ice. That's where we're at Thursday afternoon here in Delano. 10 degrees and below, well, that's even better.
When we get into those single digits, we get immense growth.
And lucky for people like Dylan, we should get to those single digits and even colder over the next week, in time for opening day next Saturday, January 11th.
And it's just going to get bigger and bigger even after we open.
If you can't wait until next week, Ice Castles at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds opens this Friday night, featuring ice castles, tunnels, and caverns. Organizers say they, too, are looking to make up for last year's lack of winter.
I know winter can be kind of depressing for people, and, that's why we're here. We're just excited to share something happy and magical for people. We're excited to share this with you guys.
There you go, Armand. A lot of ice for you there. Some ice skating?
Yeah, take a crack at it.
There you go. Well, final check of the weather when we return.
Coming up tonight on the CBS Evening News, the latest on the deadly New Year's Day rampage on Bourbon Street. What investigators are recovering from the suspect's home as they chase more answers. That and more headlines tonight on the CBS Evening News.
Alex, we're going to feel like an ice palace here across the region here for the next week.
And it's not going anywhere anytime soon, like you just said. Cold weather sticking around. All you got to do is look at our 10-day forecast here. Highs in the teens, lows in the single digits for the most part. Unfortunately, if you're a snow lover, I don't have very good information here for you. Maybe a little snow chance south and east of Madison, Sunday into Monday. Bigger snows to the south in the mid-Mississippi River Valley. Little snow chance on Friday later in the upcoming week. We'll keep an eye on that. And then if you're heading up northeast to the game on Sunday, temperatures in the teens. Light winds, sunny skies, deceptively sunny skies.
Deceptively sunny, but no snow. Thank you for tuning in to us.